For the research paper, I chose the topic of comedy, and so the article that I chose is called Does Humor Matter? And it's an analysis of how hard news versus comedy news impacts agenda setting effects. In the literature review, citation style is APA. It's mainly parenthetical citations, and it's more paraphrasing more so than direct quotes. So I want to start off by talking about agenda setting. And so the literature review defines agenda setting, and it explores how media does not tell people what to think, but it definitely influences what people are thinking about. And so how this is done is by basically bringing the topic up as a form of mass communication, as we all know. So some of the main types of information gathering for topics deemed important is the next thing that I want to talk about. So as a form of mass media communication, the news constitutes people's knowledge on topics. And this kind of goes back to the agenda setting, where we're not telling people what to think, but you're definitely influencing what they're thinking about by putting the topic in front of them. And so the other main source of information, the other source for information gathering for other people, one of the main things talked about was other people themselves. And so if they're not getting it from a news source, then they're putting images together based on what they're hearing from other people. And so it's almost like peer-to-peer information is establishing a concept in their own head. And so to tie this back to the textbook, I think the process of information gathering in itself is most applicable for the cybernetics tradition, because we have so many systems going into this process. And so you have mass media communications, which is the news, which is one system. It can be studied on its own, and it's very complex in itself. You have information gathering from other people as well, which is also something that can be studied in itself as pure communication. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is individual nuances, such as central versus passive processing and individual attitudes. And so each person has their own attitudes that's going to determine whether or not they're going to accept or reject what they're hearing on the news. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was that these nuances are mainly studied in the context of hard news. And so it's easy to put these pieces together in the subject of hard news based on ideas that are already formed in someone's head, whether they like the news channel, things like that are definitely going to influence how they're going to receive the information. And so because all the news has to do is bring up the topic, the influence of comedy news, and when I say comedy news, I mean shows such as The Late Show or The Daily Show, where comedy is a large aspect of the program that they're doing, and it's not so serious. These have yet to be studied in regards to how they influence people's perceptions on specifically what topics are deemed important. So all this to say, the final research question of this article is, how does the presentation of the style of the information, so hard news versus comedy news, impact whether individuals exposed to an issue will cite that issue as an important issue?